We've just gotten our first sneak peek at the all-new Mac Pro and Pro Display, and I'm going to go through their top 5 highlights. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector.
First and most importantly, Apple just killed it. They killed it with the new Mac Pro. Like, slayed it. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to Marco Arment, who's been waiting for what feels like eons for this.
You guys killed it. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Wait till you use it.
I can't wait.
It is a screamer.
You killed it. It's really something. Thank you.
Very proud. Very proud.
I had a chance to chat with some of the people at Apple, including the product team and members of the still pretty new Pro Workflows team, and spend about 90 minutes in the hands-on area watching the new Mac Pro go through all of its paces. It's ultra high-end and has an ultra high-end price tag to go with it, which means it's absolutely not for everyone. Many pros will be super happy with the recently updated, more pro-like Mac Mini, and even more with the iMac Pro. But for those for whom time is worth way more than money, and for whom even a well-specced out Mac Pro will still cost less than their Red or Alexa camera, never mind the several they have in production, or all the audio gear and instruments they use, or lab equipment, or whatever, this is exactly what they want. A Pro Mac that's literally almost without limits. The best news ever is this. The new Mac Pro is a lot like the old Mac Pro. No, not a trash can, the cheese grater, the fantastically engineered, almost endlessly accessible and expandable tower of yore. And thanks to its new 3D grill system, it even looks more like a cheese grater than ever before. Yeah, it turns out that was entirely possible. It just feels like such a huge win. Modular, but not in an unnecessarily weird, overly complicated, or wacky way. It has modules like the Mac Pro Expansion Module, or MPX, and the Afterburner ProRes Accelerator, but it uses them in a traditional way, with PCI expansion slots. Now, it's even easier to open than the old cheese grater. Just turn the latch and you can pull the aluminum housing up and gain complete 360-degree access to the Mac Pro and its dual-sided board. You can even put wheels on it if you really want to, and if you'd rather rack mount it than stand it up, Apple will have a model expressly designed for that, but otherwise identical in every way, available for you at launch. Now, I'm not going to focus on specs. Don't get me wrong, they're ludicrous. From the 28 Xeon cores, the brand new Cascade Lake optimized for workstation cores that Intel announced at the same time as this new Mac Pro, and up to 64 PCI Express lanes, 300 watts of power, up to 1.5 terabytes of ECC memory, 4 double-wide PCI Express slots, 3 single-wide slots, and 1 half-length slot, pre-configured with the Apple I/O card, up to 4 terabytes of SSD, protected by the Apple T2 security chip, Thunderbolt 3 ports on the top and bottom, USB-A ports on the front, 2 10-gigabyte Ethernet, and that's just the beginning. You can read all of them off apple.com, or likely see them in pretty much every other video hitting YouTube right now. It's basically a thermally unconstrained monster of a machine. It's power packed. It's very close to no compromises when it comes to everything, provided you're willing to pay for it. Except there's still one thing you just can't pay for. There's still no NVIDIA graphics options. Apple won't talk about NVIDIA the same way they won't talk about Intel's tardiness with chips or continued lack of a process shrink. But it's my understanding NVIDIA still won't let Apple write to the metal, which means directly to the hardware, and instead want them to jump through NVIDIA's hoops. And the problem with that is that it destroys the integration and ease of transport Apple provides developers thanks to things like metal. So, Apple is just working around NVIDIA, or through them, by doing things like MPX to make AMD a faster option, and working with developers of Pro apps to get all of those leading 3D packages and other Pro apps ported directly to the Mac. But what I really want to focus on is the workflows. Apple has that fairly new Pro Workflows team that reports into the same team making all the new Pro machines. In typical Apple fashion, they went and recruited the real engineers and creators who worked in the big Hollywood studios, special effects houses, music production facilities, and just have them now in-house, hammering on the Pro hardware and software so features can be specced out and problems caught and fixed long before any specific products are announced. It's something so smart, I can't believe Apple didn't start doing it a decade or more ago, but I'm super happy they're doing it now. And what they showed off here were things like 3 streams of 8K ProRes video playing back in real time without so much as a stammer or a stutter on the fully decked out Mac Pro with MPX and Afterburner in Final Cut Pro 10. And a Pixar set from Toy Story 4, an interior you could pull back on and look around through to see the whole building, and pull back again to see the whole park, and again to see the whole area. Just polygons being thrown out so fast, so far, it was beyond impressive, from Hydra to Maya and back. And yeah, it comes with that new Pro Display XDR. A few years ago, Apple canceled the Thunderbolt display, and that remains true to this day. It's still canceled. Apple hasn't come anywhere near replacing that sub $1,000 consumer panel for everyone. Instead, what Apple is doing is directly taking on the $20,000 to $30,000 reference monitors typically found in production studios. I got to see a bake-off between the Pro Display, a consumer HDR display, a higher-end display that cost a couple of $1,000, and the LCD and OLED Sony reference monitors that cost up there in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. And the Pro Display just absolutely slaughtered them. It was not a fair fight. The HDR display was trying so hard to be bright it distorted all the colors. The $2,000 display was just dark and muddy, and the Sony display shifted off axis and couldn't maintain consistent brightness for more than a few seconds or minutes in most white heavy cases. And those tapped out at 4K. The Apple Pro Display is 6K, 6016 by 3384, and it can hit peak brightness of 1600 nits and sustain 1000 nits effectively all day, every day, and at less than 1/3 or 1/5 the price. So yes, it's super expensive, and anyone looking at it as a consumer, as a casual, as an I just want a display with an Apple logo on it will think it is ridiculous that Apple's lost it, especially after hearing them announce that $1,000 Pro stand during the keynote that just sucked all the air out of what had been, up until then, a really well-received announcement. But it's not designed for casual users. It's designed so that for companies, instead of having one $45,000 reference monitor in your studio's color grading station and everyone else just trying to guess on cheaper LCDs, a company can get 3 to 6 Pro displays instead and have everyone in the workflow, everyone in the pipeline, all working color accurate to begin with. It totally sucks. It totally sucks that most of us won't be able to afford it. I really hope Apple takes everything they learned making this Pro display and figures out how to offer a next generation 27-inch iMac or Thunderbolt style display that may not have all the ultra high-end bells and whistles, but still gives all of us who still want that Apple display an Apple display that we can afford for around $1,000, regular old stand included. But after years of us demanding Pro hardware with no compromises from Apple, that is exactly what Apple is doing. And to everyone who spent the last year or so worried that Apple was forgetting about the Mac and about the Pros, this was the culmination of the last year. From MacBook Air to Mini to MacBook Pro to iMac Pro to now Mac Pro, of Apple saying, don't worry, we got you. We'll show you what a real no limits Mac and Pro display can really do.
Now, there's one thing that's even better than hearing about all of this, and that's learning how to do it yourself. Every day, Brilliant publishes daily challenges that provide a quick and fascinating view into math, logic, science, engineering, computer science, everything you need. If you like the concept and want to learn more, there's a full interactive course related to each daily challenge. You can go in depth to solve fun logic puzzles and challenges, experiment, and learn. You can even learn on the go, whether you're on a flight or traveling with spotty internet connections. You can now take courses offline with Brilliant's iOS and Android apps. So you're not just spending time, you're investing it. To support Vector and get unlimited access to Brilliant's courses and daily challenges, head on over to brilliant.org/vector and get 20% off their annual premium subscription. Thanks, Brilliant, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. Now, hit like, hit subscribe, and hit up those comments below and let me know. The new Mac Pro and Pro Display, is this finally the professional Mac that we've been waiting for? Why or why not? Thank you so much for watching, and see you next video.
And the